Steve, episode 20, the Broadway block, continuing our 5-game losing streak with a 4-0 shutout to the Bruins. Their goal scorers, Bergeron, Carlo, DeBrusque, and McAvoy. Marchand with two apples, 2 assists. Booch done for the season. Tim Gettinger gets the call up from the Wolfpack after 19 points. Did you like anything in the game?
I don't know, man. It really was tough, and you can see a deflated team for sure. We were speaking just briefly before this started that the defense looked pretty porous. There was a couple of times where we would skate down and we had an extra man on them. It was like a 3-on-4 in our favor, and it just kind of looked like they were on a power play, like just keeping the puck away, and they're getting assists and contributions from their big guys. A lot of it had to do with being horrendously outshot, and to think that they have a goalie down there that has been relatively untested.
Swayman?
That's kind of sad. I mean, he's got a few games under his belt now, but to only put up 15 shots, we
didn't even challenge him.
Never really tested him. Yeah, so that was kind of unfortunate.
It's kind of rough with the 5-game losing streak. I agree with you on the everybody looks kind of deflated. I don't know if it has to do with the firing of John Davidson and Jeff Gorton, everybody's unknown future there, because you've been trying to prove something to the management all season, and then management gets cleaned house, and then you're like, what am I even playing for? Am I even going to be on this team next year? And if you're a young guy too, then you have the question mark of, are they going to continue investing in me? And especially with the expansion draft, obviously everybody knows what James Dolan wants, big free agents to come in and make a difference right away. So what does that mean for the young guys? I think everybody has a question mark. Even Igor out there, normally he matches up pretty well against Boston. He just, a couple goals there. I think the DeBrusque goal might not have gone in. It was just a couple rough ones there. No fight left in the team. And then all our veterans, Trouba, Kreider, anybody really, Panarin, we're really just hurting on leadership out there.
Yeah, and if you go down there scoring, it's like Pastrnak, Marchand, Bergeron,
which should be getting ready for the playoffs anyway. So it's good their big hitters are hitting.
Taylor Hall.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're looked at like one of probably the best lines in hockey. So you can't be too mad there. No points from Nick Ritchie, no points from Craig Smith. So, I mean, they were held relatively scoreless on some of the lines, but some of the guys
they're saving it for tonight.
Yeah, a lot of secondary defense from us, but the big guys came through. The playoff picture is starting to look a little bit less murky. We got Pittsburgh, Washington, Boston, Islanders to make up the East, Vegas, Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis. I'd say probably the biggest surprise there is Minnesota. I think you can probably say Colorado, St. Louis, and Vegas safely we're going to make it in there.
Whose matchup are you looking for the most out of the whole league?
That's tough to say, man. Canada's going to be really fun, I think, to watch, with Edmonton surging the way they are, and the Maple Leafs perhaps getting Freddie Anderson back for the playoffs.
What about the Sunshine State battle? The battle we've always wanted.
Look, man, this could be a lot of fun for the Central Division, because you got Nashville that could maybe grab that last playoff spot. Florida's been playing not crazy well of late, but down the road they've been playing some amazing hockey, and they're starting to get some inspired performances, and then also take into consideration that they lost their best defenseman, so they're sort of rallying together. And I love what Carolina's been doing over the last few years. Obviously,
they clinched the Central Division last night.
Yeah, and it's tough to root for Carolina, because you're like, after what happened to us last year, and all the trade history we have and stuff like that. But Tampa's got theirs. I think Carolina would be cool. I think Florida would be cool. And
I'd
it
love
looks
to
like
see the Panthers knock the Bolts off first round.
Dude, anything could happen. And
Anything
he saw it happen with the Blue Jackets not too long ago. So I think the North Division is going to be fun to watch. Montreal is trying to squeak out that last playoff spot, but it looks all but just official at this point, being that the Jets have clinched with just 2 more points than the Canadians. I was thinking a lot more about the Jeff Gorton stuff. I know that the game was not as fun to watch, so a lot more of the future and like what you said, like what the uncertainty was starting to like pop up in my head, and like you got to think that we go for a guy like Eichel and that's like probably a done deal now for the summer. But what does that do as far as like making Dolan happy? Like the guy basically said he wants us to be a tougher team. So we would go out and get another highly skilled offensive player. Like what is that?
I didn't know fights wins games. Messier said
Right.
something along the same lines. He issued a statement like grit's just as important, which I agree.
Maybe in
There's an
'94.
Yeah,
Like
I agree. There's an aspect of it, but goals wins games.
right. No, that's such a weird direction to kind of like try to get behind too, because it's like, what did they want us to take Byfield, someone who's like 6'3", over a guy like, I think he's even bigger than that, over a guy like Laugh who plays a more physical sided game, but it's like I I think that the talent we put together, sure, it's lacking a little bit, but you have to also think like the bigger picture, like that this was probably something that was going to be addressed this summer anyway, and that this
And it
is
was a shortened season. So, like, unless you were coming out really hitting it hard right away, like, we knew who we were. And like I said in the last episode, the fact that, even Chris Drury as an assistant general manager said, like, yeah, it wasn't playoffs or bust. And then I'm still really confused on the David Quinn situation. Are they just letting him finish out the season? Like, then why wouldn't they let JD and Gorton finish out the season if they're going to let Quinn finish out?
right, because
It
what
doesn't make
else could there
sense.
be done? And then Dolan backed it up by saying that he wanted whoever was new to be on the ground floor of like what's going to happen for draft day, and like I totally get that. And then he said out of respect he didn't want to do it on the road. They were still at home, so he figured he would do it then, and then not have to do that on like a road trip, which would like screw everybody up even more. But it's like I think it screws up everybody more just being in the last few days, and like
Well,
there's
yeah. What about
the
the end of
trade
the
deadline's
season?
over, so it's like
1 week.
what else? Yeah, what else could they have done in that position that would have screwed everything over? And then the other funny thing was that it came out that Dolan was behind the memo that said that this was unacceptable, and then the fact that JD and Gordon tried to distance themselves from it, it's like they were going basically openly against what Dolan had to say.
Well, I heard
And then
another thing that they said that Dolan was like he would try to be a little bit more in the rooms and they wouldn't let him in. And there was a time that Dolan wanted John Davidson to fire Jeff Gorton, and he refused to fire Jeff Gorton because he believes in his hockey mind and what they were building together. So that obviously the fact that there was that much separation between those two parties like never ends well for anybody.
yeah, and then like somebody who is paid to talk about this, but I wouldn't say is like a professional by any means. The fourth line man, he was sort of dead on with like, this is why you can't ice guys like a Julien Gauthier. And I understand that the reason we took Julien Gauthier was that we were trading from a strong point. We were loaded on defense. Joey Keane never would have saw a time in a Rangers jersey, although right now it's sort of looking like maybe he would have, being that where we're at with who we're icing. But besides the point, Joey Keane was traded for Julien Gauthier straight up, which gives you a guy who was a first round draft pick who skates like the wind and has a high shooting and scoring percentage. So do you maybe understand the move if you're JD and Gorton to trade for a guy like Gauthier when maybe I think that his point was that we could have traded for a guy like Maroon or somebody of that ilk, not to say that Maroon was up for like that. You got guys like Leo Komarov who were scratched twice this year
But
that
I feel like you
could
don't trade
probably
for
play
those
really
people.
well.
I feel like you don't
You
trade
could
for
trade
those
a Joey
people.
Keane for those guys. I mean, I
Yeah,
think I think you're right. You probably would have got him in free agency this
yeah.
year. or you would have made Seattle try to like pinch somebody away that you can then go in and take. But I sort of understood that point of like the reason goes deeper than just establishing talent. He's not mad that we established talent. He's mad that there was times where we probably could have got somebody more gritty and we chose to go with someone maybe flashy in that situation. Like,
But minus
wow,
the
look at the
Capitals,
potential.
when did we need, like, yeah, there was a couple times we need a little grip, but I didn't see it like as a major that would have separated us from making the playoffs to not making the playoffs. Maybe
Well,
the only thing I would have seen was maybe making someone a captain. I wasn't a big fan of the four assistant captains. Like I more wanted someone like, you're telling me Zibanejad, who's been in the trenches, or even Panarin, because you give it to the guy like that. I don't think it would have rubbed people wrong. I think it would have made someone step up and maybe, help those younger guys a little bit. And then you threw A's on chest on top of that.
yeah, no, I'd agree with the captain part. And and a little bit of that might be to like Messier's point of like this isn't the way that I would have built the team. Um, and I think it's understandable to take a swing on guys like Gauthier that might have a good upside, because that's what you're trading for. You're trading basically. I believe that these two players are pretty much even, and that no one's getting ripped off. But the chance of Gauthier amounting to more might be the difference of a change of scenery, and
Yeah.
that's a chance I think that you're willing to take. Gee, it'd be really nice to just teach Gauthier how to play that style because he's enormous and can skate really fast. So I mean, I think there's a little bit of that, and then I think that you're right that maybe you don't necessarily trade for that aspect, but that it could be established in free agency. A guy like Komarov comes to mind only because he was waived this season. But guys like Casey Cizikas, whose contracts are going to be ending soon, who has a great face-off percentage, and to bring that ability to the fourth line and being able to play that type of style, the Islanders have had one of the best fourth lines in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple years ago we did as well. I thought,
I think they
um,
had a 10-goal scorer on that line in a 50
yeah,
game season. Like, like
yeah. Well, that I mean, honestly, man, that's you need to not just be a broken record, but you need to be much more well diverse. And I think that JD saw that last year in the playoffs when he targeted guys like Braden Schneider, who play a really physical, um, defensive style game, who reminds me a lot of like a bigger Lindgren, who
mhm.
just like closes the gap on people. And then that's the other thing too, is that you sort of forget that you were missing Lindgren these last few games. One of the other things they
And
said,
Truba and Kreider,
yeah, well, and who are like three of the most physical guys on
the,
the
the
team.
most physical guy. Like, Kreider's not going to back down from anybody. Neither is Truba. Those, when we were really gelling there, like obviously we were playing the Sabres and the Devils a lot there, was Truba was getting big production, big hits,
Yeah,
keeping us in the offensive zone. Like, and I got to think K. Andre Miller was seeing that and how to play the game.
yeah. I mean, he'd be another guy that can step into that sort of offensive role, or you know what I mean, the defensive role of like being physical. One of the other things that he mentioned was that he noticed this 20 games ago. So then I got curious and I started swiping back, like, who did we play 20 games ago? Those are the games we were winning like 8-3. So at what point do you look at a game where we win 8-3 and think we need to be more physical? Like, we just scored 8 goals.
Wouldn't you be more impressed by like we're built like an offensive scoring machine team, like, and we're doing what we're built like? Wouldn't you be proud of
Yeah,
that instead of
and
being
we
like, well, maybe we
outscored,
should have gotten in a couple more fights? Like,
right? And we outscored teams that are making a statement in our division. We outscored teams that are in the playoffs, which is crazy. We have more points for than a lot of these teams, and even around the league, we have a lot more points for than a lot of these teams. And to also think that, he had said Dolan, this is, what did he say exactly? It was like, I've been told for years that the Rangers have more. I've been told all season by other GMs and other owners that the Rangers have more talent than they know what to do with. And it's like, so you let these idiots, the guys that are literally your opponents, convince you that like, no, you don't need any more Gordon. Nah, get rid of that guy. Like, for real, like, are you just that uneducated that you're like, you're right. We have enough talent. It's time to get gritty. Like,
I blame the New York Knicks because if Tom Thibodeau over there wasn't doing such a good job with the Knicks and they were like falling out of playoff contention, Dolan would have been scrambling over there, firing people, doing stuff. But because of Tom Thibodeau really getting the Knicks organization on a bunch of blue collar players over there, and they're going to make the playoffs, he was like, what do I do now? I've already screwed up Cablevision. How can I screw up something else? And it's like, boom, okay, let's go to the Rangers now.
yeah, maybe a little bit of that. Maybe he's bored. What he normally messes with isn't working. And even a lot of these articles were saying that he's a typically hands-off guy, which like he gets that reputation for having not done much with the Rangers in a while, but I think that his reputation is to be too hands-on and that like tinkering too much in something that you don't really know about. It's just crazy. And then to think that nobody agrees with this, like nobody that you look up agrees with what just happened. Every single person thinks this is one of the craziest things, unprecedented with some of the words thrown around. Like this is insanity.
Well, it's the same problem with when you're given all this power and you never earned it. Like, James Dolan, like he didn't start Cablevision. Everybody loved his father and everything. He was the one who originated the team and like bought the team and everything. And then Dolan, just lucky to be blessed with the silver spoon, was inherited these teams. So when you're inherited a lot of power like that, it's very hard. You always want to put your stamp on it because like I'm referencing now, like he didn't build the Cablevision empire to buy Madison Square Garden. His father did. So he's always in the shadows. He's never brought a championship to Madison Square Garden for any team. He only, I think the best thing he's done is probably bring Billy Joel in 8 million times to play the Garden, but that's about it. Billy Joel's banner hangs in the rafters. That's about all he did, that's the rafters. But like when you look at it like that, when, like I said, when you inherit anything and you don't build the empire yourself, you got to do something to make people know you're relevant. So I got to think he's just the guy in the background. Like I said, Knicks are doing well. He's not getting it. He wants to win now. Obviously he likes money because, filling those seats in the playoff season for the Rangers would be a lot better than, sitting at home for another year. And I think he wanted to do this now because obviously next year, if the requirement is not playoffs, then like, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah. Well, so coaches would be fun to think about. A guy like Rod Brindamore comes to mind, maybe a Peter Laviolette or somebody that has a lot of experience.
Pull Laviolette away from the Caps, right? Like
it doesn't have to be. I mean, Brindamore's contract is ending, which would be nice, and he's done a tremendous job with the Carolina. But somebody with
your Claude Julien text.
Yeah, someone with like a name that like who also would actually be available. I think that happens. I think a Jordan Martinook, somebody who's like a physical fourth line player who's known to be like a gel guy. Probably a Casey Cizikas.
I liked Quinn, but I think it's a hard task to put on any team to be able to develop the coach and the whole team, because every game the coach is learning the NHL style. Obviously, American hockey, college hockey is similar, like you mentioned last time, but it's still, you're playing in Madison Square Garden every night. Like, Quinn's got to learn all that pressure and everything. And then, when, obviously he's feeling it when Knobloch came in and did great there for the fill-in.
Do you think that played a little bit of it into it too? Because again, I'm trying to wrap my brain around the whole. I thought about this 20 games ago, and again, some of the wins that we had.
Well, I agree. I definitely got to think it.
About 20.
It definitely put the idea in his head. Remember, we were talking about it. I wasn't I wasn't too happy on how fast Quinn was developing Laffer and stuff. Like, I know it was the slow approach, which is okay, but I'm not like that, so I wouldn't have developed Laugh like that. I would have put him out on more power plays. And, anytime it's like McDavid, anytime anybody's out with Panarin, like, So I do agree there was some points like that, but like, Quinn even defended his point, like, I'm not just gonna throw him out there. Like, you gotta earn the time. So like, if you're invested in Quinn, then that's what you're invested. If you're not, like, maybe if he was that unhappy 20 games ago, why wouldn't he shake up the coach first? What do you think? Gorton and JD wouldn't agree with that? Is that why he had to get rid of them first?
Well, it's tough, and like because Quinn didn't put the lineup together, right? He's just playing his pieces where he thinks that they would be the
Yeah.
best. And Quinn's also a guy that has a good rapport with Drury. So I would be interested to see if Drury comes up to bat for Quinn and defends him in front of a guy like Dolan, who might be less invested in a guy like Quinn. But moving forward, man, I think those are the moves I'd expect to see. Changing the fourth line, Casey Cizikas, somebody like that, new coach, and look forward to the next game, man. Hopefully it's not such a boring match, and maybe we can get a little bit of Quinn defense going here. But
Well, it's the last game of the season, so it definitely will be interesting to see what happens out there. And I think that is all the time we have for episode 20 today, Steve.
Well, man, it was fun. I'm glad we started doing this, and look forward to doing another one with you soon.
Sounds good.
Let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.